Warning, the following podcast has been classified as insanely lucrative. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm like, how can we make $100,000 right now? And you're like, okay, how can we make $10 million in 2 years?
Your attention, please. Listening to the AMPM podcast may cause recurring revenue streams and unfair advantages over your competitors. Other side effects may include fatter wallets, fired bosses, and longer vacations. Listen at your own risk. Here's your host, seven-figure entrepreneur and online marketing madman, Manny Coates. Manny Coates.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the AMPM podcast. My name is Manny Coates, and I will be your host. And this is the show where we discuss generating recurring revenue 24 hours per day during the AM and the PM, day or night, hence the name of the show. As a matter of fact, I was just in Santa Monica having a beer, some fish tacos, even got on a Ferris wheel. And guess what, guys? I was making money while doing that. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. I am here with my good buddy and the director of marketing for all of our companies, Guillermo Puyol. Say hello, Guillermo.
Hello, everybody.
I asked Guillermo to come online to talk about branding. I think it's a pretty important discussion. But before we get to that, Guy, a very important question. What is your favorite movie?
Oh, man, yeah, that's important. We definitely got to go over that. My favorite movie is Top Gun, actually.
Excellent. Okay, so branding. We talk about selling products on Amazon all the time, finding a product and a supplier, getting it online, and making money. But one of the things that a lot of people don't cover is the actual importance of branding. And you're really, really big on branding and looking at the long term. I'm like, how can we make $100,000 right now? And you're like, okay, how can we make $10 million in 2 years, right? So let's talk about branding. Where do you want to start?
Well, one of the things that I find problematic at the beginning for most sellers is that they have a product mentality. So they think about finding the next product instead of finding the next audience to serve. And I think there's a big difference. And that's the difference between that $100,000 a year to $10-20 million brand that you can sell.
Okay, so that's a good point. So for example, Nike, right? I mean, you have the little swoop, the Nike swoop, and you can take any $5 t-shirt, right? But if you put the swoop on there, boom, it instantly becomes a $20, $30 shirt. Is that what you're talking about in terms of building that brand?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not only about the brand recognition. Like, for example, with Nike, they took a $100 logo, which that's actually what they paid for that logo, was about $100 to a college student. And they took that into an internationally recognized brand. So that is the importance of building a brand, making it recognizable, so that all of a sudden, just because you have that brand attached to a product, there's a lot more information that comes into the prospect's mind. So you want to help people associate your brand with quality, with maybe prestige. I mean, you can have a vehicle, it takes you from point A to point B, but if you attach a Rolls-Royce brand to that vehicle, all of a sudden you know that it's not just a commuter, it has a lot of added value because of it has that brand.
Right, that perceived value automatically. Even if you don't like the body style, you're like, holy crap, that's a $400,000 car.
Exactly.
So I'm going to jump around here real quick, but our long-term goals for our brands, just so everybody knows where we're at the start of this podcast, is that we want to build 2 brands per year. Okay, that's our goal, and maybe more, but I think with 2, it's pretty good. We're working on 1 now, and we're going to be starting the second one here shortly. But my goal, and I know I talk to Guy every day. Guy's in Texas, I'm here in California, and hopefully real soon we're in the same office together. But my goal, and I think Guy's goal, is to build each brand up to 7 figures by the end of this year, and then hopefully combined we can get everything up to about 8 figures, that $10 million mark, by the end of next year. And then one of my personal goals is to sell one of the brands this year. I'd like to see if I can do that. I've never done it with Amazon, but those are the goals for our company, what we want to do. But let's back up now that people, the listeners know what we're going after. Let's talk about the brand itself. Explain to the listeners how somebody should go about, just picking a product online and say, okay, you know what, I can sell this glassware versus actually, selecting a brand that's going to build over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as I mentioned before, it's a matter of not thinking of the product, making decisions based around the product, but based around the audience. So, for example, if you have a hiker, what does that hiker need? So they probably need boots, they probably need water bottles, backpacks, tools, maybe a compass. So all of those are things that audience as a whole is going to need. So if you focus your brand into serving a specific audience, then all of a sudden you're going to know what your next product is going to be. So now you've already got the water bottle, then you probably want to have the backpack. So it follows a path rather than just finding the next private label product that's completely unrelated to each other.
Okay. So these are complementary products to each other. And I think, a lot of people have talked about that. If you've got a widget or whatever it is, then you want the next widget that might be similar to that first one.
Yeah, that's right. You can actually have, you can go different routes whenever you're figuring out where you're selecting your product. The main goal is to think of the value, the customer value. So a lot of people focus too much on increasing sales. Increasing sales is very, very difficult because if you're working off of a one-off purchase kind of product, then you always have to find the next customer and the next customer and be driving up PPC, trying to close sales every day. Whereas if you're finding customers that will continue to buy from you, then you can increase the value per customer. And that's something that you can really control. For example, with replenishables, which is a great market to go into, if you you can actually pay $20 in order to sell a $10 product if you know your metrics, because we know that acquiring that customer is going to always be more expensive. But if you know your metrics, you know your numbers, you might know that in the long run, that person is going to reorder 7 times. So the average customer will give you $70. So you might be able to pay $20 to acquire that customer. And those are very, very rough numbers, of course. But the idea is that if you're handling replenishables, for example, skincare, lotion, supplements, all those things that you get one customer and then they reorder, that's a great way to go.
Right. So that's getting that one customer to keep buying, and you're generating additional revenue every single month or at least multiple times per year. When I think about the brands that we're building, I'm making sure that the brands are high quality, right? Because it makes no sense to me to have super cheap products that are just, garbage products for the most part, right? That you really don't care about. And then building a brand around it because nobody cares, right? So I think with the brand, it has to be something you're proud of, something that's high quality, that the person will say, man, I just bought this blender from whatever the company name is, that brand. And now that brand comes out with a food processor or a toaster or whatever it is, right? And then they want to buy your brand because they were very satisfied with the other product.
No, absolutely. You're talking about product lines in that case. So you can go the replenishable route where you're selling consumables, and people that buy one consumable is likely to buy another consumable of the same brand. Or you can go through product lines and fill up their kitchen or their office with the same brand products because they know, like, and trust you. Right. That's one of the key things. If your first impression is a negative one, you've lost them forever. It's so hard to change that. Yeah. So you have to make sure that the first product that you put out is a quality product.
Yeah, and going back to your replenishables, right? The consumables. I've got a buddy. He doesn't sell on Amazon, but he sells a lot, and he sells New Zealand honey, and it's got all these healing properties. He says it does all kinds of different stuff, and it's a very expensive product. Like compared to regular honey, it's like multiple times the cost of normal honey, and he has repeat buyers coming in, just constantly, even though his product's probably 3 times more expensive than general honey that you would buy, or 4 times. I don't know if it's some crazy number, but he's established a very good brand name, and people buy, and they also tell their friends, hey, buy this because it's super awesome. Yeah. And it's disposable, so you're gonna just replenishable, I should say. You have people coming in over and over and over, so that's awesome, and that's one of the things that we're going to be working towards on our brands as well. So, absolutely, we have to. Yeah, so you can do accessories along with that. Like, for example, if you've got, I don't know, a food processor, we're going back to that example, you could sell additional things like blades and different holders and cups and things that go along with that, right? To, I guess, squeeze that customer. Maybe that's a wrong term, that sounds terrible, but to get that customer to invest a little bit more into additional things for your product line. Yeah, and the thing is, how much value can you provide to one individual? So if you go back to that product mentality, what's going to be my next product? What's going to be my next product? Instead of that is, what else does my audience need? So right. if you already have a very, very specific audience in mind, and you know what they're thinking, what work they do, how much money they make, then you can have a clear picture of what the next product or series of products are going to be. Right. And that makes sense. And well, let's talk about the brand name, because a lot of people are, they come out with a product and maybe they'll have a product name, but they really haven't thought their brand name through. You and I have talked about this, right? At length. And one of the important things I think with brand is that the name itself have some kind of meaning, an automatic meaning, like it conveys whatever it is that you're trying to go after. And we use this example just recently where if a person didn't know anything about pizzas on TV or anything like that, and they saw 2 exactly equal pizzas there in the store, and one was called Charlie's Pizza and the other one was DiGiorno Pizza, which I think the majority of people have heard, right? You've seen the commercials. DiGiorno sounds like a better pizza, doesn't it? It does to me. Absolutely, because there's a mental imagery that comes with the Italian sounding name. I mean, pizza should be Italian, and there's a lot that comes involuntarily to your mind just because of the name. Right. So if a customer has a product, and I'll let you pick a product, they should probably pick maybe a name related to, I guess, that language or country or something that conveys that. Would you say that's accurate? Yeah. I mean, for example, if you were to build a watch is something that has to be precise, always very, very exact. So maybe a German name could convey that preciseness of the Germans are known for. Or Swiss even, right? Or the Swiss, absolutely. Or if it's something that's more around fashion, then you have French names, for example. Right. I mean, there's a lot of connotations that go with names, and we have to be able to take that brand and instantly trigger something in the consumer's minds. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And we do that. If we have a product that's supposed to be relaxing or whatever, we'll pick a name that sounds, all relaxing and zenny and whatever. If it's, for example, if you're selling kind of a spa treatment type product where it has, water that dribbles down rocks, you've seen those things. I forget what they're called, but maybe a Japanese sounding brand would be awesome for that versus it just being called, something American or English or whatever the case might be. Absolutely. So yeah. I think that's important. I know a lot of people don't do that. They want something that people will remember, but a lot of times people are just searching on Amazon and they'll see 4 or 5 products that are very similar, and all they can go by is that brand, that name that they see, as long as everything else is equal, right? One of the cool things is that a well-chosen brand name will sound familiar to you, even if it's the first time you hear it. Yeah, that's a good point. That's true. Well, let's talk about building up, I guess, audience, or actually maybe you should talk about the difference between building up an audience and building up an email list, because we want to talk about how to actually create users or have users available to advertise to outside of Amazon, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because Amazon is so closed with their user base, I think it's important, an important aspect to grow your own audience. You cannot depend on Amazon. Amazon is a channel. So Amazon, you can sell on, but you can also sell on Walmart. You can sell on Sears. You can sell through your own e-commerce site. Amazon is just a channel. So if you want to build a brand, you have to be able to control the eyeballs, control the audience. And one way to do that is through marketing, of course. So I believe that at least a portion of your marketing should be designed to grow your list. And I mean your audience, your list. I always say the money is in the list. That's something that's been going around for many, many years. But building an email list that you can market to is of crucial importance, I believe.
Yeah. Well, but that's the tricky part, right, Guy? Because Amazon, the customers that we're getting, they're really not our customers. They're Amazon's customers. I mean, they're buying our product, but they're buying it through Amazon, and we don't have that list. Amazon's very good about hiding that. You can communicate through them through their API or through their system, but they don't allow you, according to their terms of service, to get them to come outside of that. So how do you build? I mean, outside, we know how to build lists before they get to Amazon, but once they're at Amazon and they buy, how do you build a list from that?
I think there's several ways that can be done. Some are a little bit riskier, but if you think about the last time you bought an electronic, any kind of electronic equipment in Amazon, you probably found a brochure inside the packaging. There was probably a website on the package itself, and there was probably a warranty registration card. So all of these things can be ways that you can get people to open your package and go to your online properties.
Okay, that's smart.
Yeah, I mean, if you register, if you have them, give them a good reason why they should register their product, then they will go to your website, and then of course you can have them register to your mailing list. You can pixel them to retarget them. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do, and you don't want to break Amazon's rules, but you can actually provide value by doing that.
Yeah, and I think Amazon's rules I guess they're really open to interpretation on a lot of stuff, right? Yeah, especially like with all the reviews, people say, hey, you can get paid, or not paid. I guess they're technically paid reviews, but they're not. You're paying for the service. But as long as people say, hey, I got this at a discount, blah, blah, blah. I guess these are all like gray areas, right? It's like, how far are you willing to push things to get ahead? And I guess it's risk analysis. We got to figure out, what we're willing to do over everybody else, and what's white hat, gray hat, and black hat, right?
Yeah.
So if we're trying to build a list, I mean, technically, you could probably go through the terms of service and say, well, you know what? If we capture their email address in any way outside, somehow we've got a person to come outside of the whole sales process, you're against Amazon's terms of service. But I guess it's got to be a little giving. Like, for example, if I put a flyer in my product, like let's say I have a product that no one's going to register, right? It's not an electronic thing. And I have a flyer in there and it's giving 10% off for if you want to buy another one, okay? Let's say they're pans or something, selling pans. Is that against the terms of service? And I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, as you said, some of those are open to interpretation, and it depends on how much risk you're willing to tolerate. If you were to have a coupon, for example, on the autoresponder email, go to the customer and drive them straight from Amazon's communication system to your own website, you'll probably get your account shut down instantly. But if you send them a PDF with instructions and added value, not a call to action, but hey, I'm selling you this blender, and here are some recipes that you could use on my website. That's maybe a gray area.
But I think it's a smart. I think it's smart. I mean, there's got to be some level of risk taking. Otherwise, you get dominated and crushed by everybody. So I think that's a great example. So if let's say you're selling a blender, you could have an ebook that's all about smoothies and amazing smoothies that you can make. It's a PDF file. Attach it to the autoresponder process that you have, right? When someone orders and they start getting emails from you saying, hey, it's on its way, and hey, do you like it, and will you give me feedback? And by the way, guys, we just did a podcast on that. If it's not online now, it will be on shortly. But I think that is a risk that I'm willing to take. And again, it's a risk tolerance thing for everybody else. But if they have that PDF and they got that email that says, hey, your blender is awesome, but here are 7 amazing recipes. And then they download it. And then within that, at the bottom, it says, hey, if there's a video of us making an ultimate margarita or whatever it is. And they go there and then you can capture their information, their email address and stuff on your webpage from there. I think that's okay. I mean, they're already outside of the sales process from Amazon. They've already purchased. Now they've already downloaded an ebook. They might be looking at that ebook a week later. It has nothing to do with them being online with Amazon, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you were to provide that within the packaging, it's super safe. If you're doing that as a PDF attachment, it's somewhat risky. And if you were to send them straight to an offer, then you're probably going to get your account taken away. So again, it's all about the risk reward. It's crucial importance to grow your audience. So if you're not taking Amazon's customers, which you probably shouldn't be if that directly, but you should be building your audience from external channels and then using Amazon for fulfillment. Right. That's the only way you're going to be able to build a brand.
So our users probably can tell that Guy is the safer side, safe guy. He's like, he goes, don't do this. And I'm like, well, how can we bend the rules to do this? Right. And so we find some middle ground where, Guy doesn't quit on me. But let's talk about that. You mentioned, building a list outside of Amazon, which you could probably build a list even faster, right?
Yeah. I mean, Amazon has a lot of traffic and that's great. But you can actually use paid traffic, for example, on Facebook, to grow huge audiences really, really fast. Any type of social media. What is important to realize is that nowadays people are just used to consuming content on the go. So
right.
You don't want to. I believe that the old days of interruption marketing and people are watching their favorite show and you show up on the commercial, that's just not effective anymore. So you have to provide value. So if you can incorporate value into your message, entertainment or education, and combine that with your products, then that's great. So if you're into the kitchenware, why not start a YouTube show where you're actually having somebody teach them how to cook with all the products that you sell?
Right. So that's smart.
And get them to subscribe there, and then of course it will take them to your website, to your YouTube channel, to your Facebook channel, to your Facebook page. So you can actually build that audience and connect with the people where they're at.
Right. Oh, and let me just say, so email lists were super, super awesome many years ago, and they're still good, right? I mean, you still use an email to contact somebody and hopefully get that person, if they've already bought from you, to buy your next product. But we know that open rates get smaller and smaller with every year. So the new list, at least to me it seems, and I think you agree to some extent, right, is that instead of actually getting them through emails, which you should still be building, I'm not saying not to, but getting them cookied, right, getting them pixeled so that you can retarget is super awesome. That's like the new thing, I guess. Oh, it's not so new, but it's like the big buzzword now. You want to talk about retargeting? Because a lot of people might not know what that is.
Yeah, I agree, Manny. I think email is great, but retargeting is awesome as well. Retargeting basically is, the way it works is whenever you go to a website, the advertiser, in this case us, will put a cookie, a little file into your browser. So that allows the advertising networks like Facebook or Google to identify your computer as part of my audience. And they will serve you ads that are relevant to you. So for example, if you've ever noticed that some brands are almost following you all over the internet, or you see a lot of the ads after you you saw them once, it's because of retargeting. I've seen a lot of people, they're thinking about getting married, and oh my gosh, I'm seeing ads about weddings all over the place. And that's because of the websites they're visiting. They're being retargeted, and now the advertisements become super relevant to their current needs.
Right. Okay. That's super powerful. And I know we're doing that. And we've actually started today, in fact, right, with some new ninja tactics that we talked about, where I'm excited to see those results, and we could talk about those in a future episode.
Yeah.
So, okay. So email list building is super important. Retargeting, building stuff outside of Amazon, right? Any kind of social media to build up that audience. Okay. Anything else that you want to talk about in regards to brand or branding?
Or branding? No, I mean, I think it's just a matter of making sure that your brand has high perceived value, has a high level of recognition. Basically, you want to make sure that your brand is well connected. One product is relevant to the next and to the next, so that they serve the same audience. It would be kind of weird if you just create a brand just to call it a brand, and you're selling kitchenware and tools, for example. It's just not going to work. So make sure that there's a good correlation between the products and that they're serving the same audience, so you can actually use all this content around the products to sell.
Yeah. And even I think you should niche it down even more if you're within a category. For example, if you're doing kitchen stuff and you're selling some kind of miracle cleaning supply, something that's amazing, but you're also selling kitchen utensils or knives or whatever it is, right? Those would be two separate brands. I don't think you would want to mix those together. You'd want names that sound, or the brand names that sound better for whatever it is that you're pushing.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to limit yourself too much, but yeah, you want to niche it down a little bit. I agree.
And also, we should probably mention, if you're serious about doing this, you probably want to look into trademarking your brand, and at the very least, looking to see if there's a trademark before you actually finalize and select that brand. Because we were going to be doing that with a particular name. It sounded awesome, and we looked it up and we're like, it's trademark, darn. And then we looked a little closer and we're like, okay, wait, the trademark isn't within the international code or class that our product is, right? For example, if you're going back to that blender thing, if their trademark is on food itself, right, like groceries, that kind of stuff, but yours is a blender, if they didn't trademark for that class, then you can still trademark. You should be able to trademark for the hardware side. You'd want to check with your attorney, but that's my understanding of it. Yeah,
I think so too, and it's important we say we're not lawyers and we don't play lawyers on TV, right?
That's right. So cool, man. I think we got it. We're right at that 30-minute mark or so. That's what we wanted to do. I think we've covered a good amount of stuff here. We'll be talking more about the brands that we're building over the year. We don't obviously, with a lot of people listening to the podcast, we can't say what the products are and what the brands are, because then everybody hops onto the listings. But I should say that, Guy and myself have been very, very busy lately building out the FBA side of stuff, right? Our private label business, trying to get it set up for 7-figure and 8-figure numbers moving forward. So we've been a little bit behind on doing the podcast stuff, but we're going to be coming out with really awesome content. We've got some amazing tools that we're using internally, some of which we're going to be sharing with our listeners, right, Guy? I hope it's up to Guy, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure that you guys are all set up with great tools. I also wanted to ask, I'm never behind the microphone and I always ask Manny, but please guys, make sure that you help us out with reviews for the podcast. That helps a lot. And also questions. You can go to ampmpodcast.com and you can ask questions there. You can record your voice and we can play those questions back on the podcast. Or if I can be of any help, I'm available on the Facebook group. You can also find it at ampmpodcast.com. On the right side of the website there, you'll see the link.
That psychedelic looking color scheme that we used over there.
Yeah.
It's all crazy. But hey guys, just what Guy said. It's super important if you can leave a review on the podcast itself, like on iTunes. It helps. And I actually go in there and I read these and I see the usernames and I remember this stuff. So if you're in there, feel free also on the Facebook group to say that you've left a review. That would be awesome. Both Guy and myself would really appreciate it because it helps. So that said, anything else, Guy, before we close it out?
No, sir. I think I just look forward to hearing from you listening right now. Just hop on, ask any questions. I look forward to doing this again, hopefully.
Yeah,
and
we will. We'll have, you know what? I think I'm going to do more podcasts with you because I think it's a little bit more dynamic a lot of times with a lot of the serious stuff. So if you don't mind, I'm going to try to get you on board on a regular basis. Cool?
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right, guys, that's about it. Guillermo, say goodbye.
Goodbye, guys.
And we will talk to you later on. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the AM/PM podcast hosted by Manny Coates. For more information, insider tools, and to get the resources mentioned in this episode, visit ampmpodcast.com.